Welcome everyone. This is Darmadi Komo from SQL Server Marketing. Welcome to part 2 of SQL Server 2012 for private cloud. You should already seen part 1 of the same presentation where we went through the reason why private cloud is so important for your organization and why a lot of customers are doing it to save hardware costs and to optimize their hardware. We also went through the walkthrough of SQL Server 2012 for private cloud solution and share with you several case studies. Today, primarily on part 2, we're going to demonstrate SQL Server 2012 for private cloud, which I will demonstrate to you each of the steps, and we'll talk about what you can do next after today's presentation. So let's jump right into the demo. But before we do that, let's do a quick recap on the solution itself. I'm just going to quickly go through what I went through on part 1. And the solution has 4 pillars: resource pooling, elasticity, self-service, control, and customize. And each one of the pillars has benefits around it. And I went through different steps on each of the pillars. Like resource pooling, we're going to talk about using the map toolkit, which I'm going to demonstrate to you and show you virtual machine manager. And on the elasticity part, I'm going to show you dynamic memory to be able to increase virtual machine density. On the self-service, we'll go through how we can create virtual machines template inside virtual machine manager and how to build automation using self-service portal. Last but not least, we're going to talk about self-service portal that allows IT to measure usage, assign costs for each of the machine templates, and be able to look at different reports for usage as well as chargeback. To begin the demo, let's go through the scenario. I'm going to describe to you a fictitious company called Lucent Publishing. It's based in US, and what they do is they have brick-and-mortar bookstore in a lot of locations within the United States, as well as online presence. And from time to time, they also want to increase their revenue by participating in events such as Microsoft TechEd, SQL Server Pass, things like that. But those bookstores location will be available just for that week during the event. And in the past, Lucent Publishing will want to request the IT person or IT department to provide those servers during those events, and it could take months of planning or weeks of planning. It takes a long time to ship all the devices over there and all that, right? So with this experience, the IT department decided to consolidate all these IT resources within a single data center and be able to use SQL Server for private cloud to deploy the VMs to those events as they want to and delete them as they want to, right? Once Lucent already moved the data center into a private cloud infrastructure, they'll be able to have more elasticity, create more HA, high availability to the resource itself, and finally using template, allowing the business units to actually deploy the VMs themselves without IT intervention. So we're going to demonstrate that. Right. Finally, I'm going to demonstrate how the IT group in Lucent Publishing be able to monitor the usage of those VMs over time and provide chargeback to the business users. All right. So let's go to the virtual machines itself. So what I have here is an IT workstation, and the first thing that IT person is going to do in the first pillar is to consolidate the existing of the database. And to do that, we're going to use a map tool, Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit, which is shown here. It's a free downloadable tool from Microsoft, and we have enhanced this a lot of times, and the current version is 6.5. I'm going to show you how to actually scan Lucent Publishing's domain on the availability of the SQL Server as well as other databases. Right, so you can check on different things in here. You can select which one do you want to scan, and you can use Active Directory in this case to traverse through all the things and log into the domain. In this case, our domain is lucent.msft. The account is administrator. Enter my password, and you can use the same user to do that, and use WMI to traverse and give you the summary of what we selected. We want to scan just SQL Server, MySQL, and all that using the right port and everything, and click finish, and it will go off and do the scanning. Right? While it's scanning, it's going to take a while to finish scanning. I'm going to show you the reports that Map Toolkit will be able to generate for you. Right? One of the report is, while it's scanning, let me close this, is the assessment. Okay, was able to identify in the past when I run this how many instances of SQL servers, database instances, different versions of SQL servers as well, different service pack, different editions on SQL Server as well. Is a cluster running on different state, language, operating systems, and so on. Right? And you can go to the detail on the component level. It will tell you which part of SQL Server, like analysis services or reporting services, we're running. Right? That's one report. On the other report that Map Toolkit will generate for you is the more detailed one. Right? In this case, you can see here that it breaks it down into different versions of SQL, and you can look at individual SQL Server summary, right? And the database summary itself, it will conveniently show you what's the database on each of these instances, and the size of the database as well, log file size, and so on and so forth, as well as the instance summary and the properties of each of these SQL Server instances, like all kinds of server property that you can think of. Right? It also goes into detail on different logins and things like that you can see as well. All right. So besides SQL Server discovery, Map Toolkit can also show you what's the other database that running in the Active Directory in the company's network. So in this case, we have scanned this and found that we have a number of MySQL and Oracle and Sybase databases. Right? And you can click on each of them for more detail on the operating system, what is running, right, on each one of this. Right? So this is very good information that Map Toolkit provides. Right? Not only that, it also provides you a very good professional report that basically went through with you the information that I just went through in Excel, but in a Word format, but also allows you to look at pie chart, create a very nice chart, and percent of distance, why migrate, things like that. It is very, very useful for company to plan their consolidation component. Right? And you can see the same thing, same report as well on the migration, that Map Toolkit will be able to identify MySQL, Oracle, or Sybase and create a nice pie chart about it, and then look at the reason why you want to migrate, and so on and so forth. Right? Very, very useful tool to do that. Okay, so that's kind of the pillar one, where we consolidate different SQL servers or other databases into our new data center in private cloud. Right? So now what I'm going to do is to show you Virtual Machine Manager. Okay? Okay, this is what Virtual Machine Manager looks like. As you can see, it actually manages all the VMs that I have. But how do we get the VMs in here into Virtual Machine Manager? Right? It is through a process called P2V or physical to virtual. Here I bring up the wizard of P2V, where actually you can connect to the existing physical server that are hosting SQL Server, and use this wizard to connect to it and read all the information and convert all this physical infrastructure into a VM format or virtual machine format. It is an automated tool, so it's quite easy to use. It will take a while to suck in all the information into virtual machines, but once you have the virtual machines, you essentially have two copies of the same applications running, because we don't touch the physical application, we don't make any changes. What we do is creating a new virtual machines out of it, and once you make sure that the virtual machines runs fine, you can turn off the physical machines, and then once you have that, then you can host them inside the Virtual Machine Manager here, right? If I can show you, for example, there's one that is already being converted, and show you the property here. There's a hardware configuration, talk to you about different processors, memory, and so on and so forth. We will revisit this in the second demo, right? So now, once you have all your virtual machines inside Virtual Machine Manager, you start worrying about making sure that it is always highly available, and make sure that there's enough memory. And you can make use of this new feature as part of Windows Server. It's called dynamic memory. So let's go through what's dynamic memory. It is a feature part of Windows Server that allows virtual machines to use memory within the boundary that we're setting. In this case, in this particular VM, I set up the memory to start from 512 to a 4 gigabyte size of memory. Alright, so it means that the virtual machines will start as 512, and then as the processing grows, it will probably go up to 4 gigabyte if the processing is a lot. Right? SQL Server has this feature called hot add memory that will take advantage of this dynamic memory directly. Let me show you what it means. So let's go and to the this virtual machines that I was talking about, the POS SQL 2012 New York. Let me go through this. This is a bookstore application, Lucent Publishing, and it's a web-based, and it's very simple browsing and check-in and check-out kind of applications. But it is a very mission critical for Lucent Publishing, because this is where they're selling all their bookstore online, especially on events such as TechEd, such as SQL Server Pass, right? So this is the application that we're talking about. So you can see here, since the virtual machine is started as 512 meg, because I start running it, it start increasing to 581, right? If I can go back here to the website and start doing more things, okay. If I then go back to the memory counter, now it sees that it can increase a little bit. If I do a lot of this processing, a lot of people connecting to the to this particular website, this memory will increase. But it can increase because of dynamic memory, and you can make use of the additional memory up to the limit that I set, which is 4 gigabyte total. All right. So now you can see that how we can scale this virtual machine as we want to, dynamically using dynamic memory. The next thing I want to show you is on the pillar 3. Now you have all your virtual machines infrastructure in Virtual Machine Manager. You also have ways to make sure that your infrastructure is highly available and be able to scale. The next thing is you want to automate the process of creating virtual machines. And we're going to do that using a feature called templating in Virtual Machine Manager. If I go here to the library, so you see here there are multiple templates that we created that are running SQL Server. Okay, we create a template based on pre-built virtual machines. We sysprep them and things like that. Right. So the base virtual machine is called POS 2012 base. Let's go there and take a look. So if you look at these virtual machines, I will need to activate this in the future. There is a way to use SQL Server and sysprep them, because SQL Server 2000 R2 and up, we're starting support sysprep technology. So Windows Server can already do sysprep, but SQL Server now also supports sysprep. I'm waiting for the dialog box to launch. Has two-step process to it. Basically allows you to install SQL Server bits inside the virtual machines, and a lot of you have not used this feature. If I click on the advanced button, there's an image preparation and image completion, the two-step process. Right? Image preparation is essentially copy all the bits, but it's not going to install it based on the machine ID and all that. So all the bits will be copied, so it will be very, very fast when you actually do a completion. Right? You can go through the steps on actually creating those. So this is the sysprep part of SQL Server. In order to automate the creation of SQL Server, what we do here is we would sysprep SQL Server with Windows Server, put it in this base format, and then we will ask the virtual machine manager every time when we deploy a new virtual machines out of the template, it will be able to run this script called install SQL. This is one way. There are many ways to do it. This is one way to do it, is to basically installing SQL Server doing silent mode. Right? Since we already do an image preparation, this process is quite fast. It's reading the configuration based on this file, INI file, and then once it's completed, it actually started to create the database, populating the schema and data and so on and so forth. Right? So let's go through and look at the configuration file. I just want to point you to the action, which is complete image. This is what we want to do in the complete image portion. And then we're ready to go. Let me show you also in Virtual Machine Manager how we configure that. Okay, so inside the library, if you look at the template, if I right click on the property of the template, on the OS configuration, where we can identify what's the name of the computer, you can actually do it by random. You can actually put in admin password, product key, time zone, things like that. You can even join to the domain, which I have it here. But there's this thing called run once, where I actually insert this line here, where every time when a user creating virtual machines out of the template, it will be able to run this script, which I showed you earlier, and then populating SQL Server, completing the installation, and then inserting the data and schema and so on and so forth. And once the deployment is done, you have a full working version of SQL Server. Alright, so we have covered how we can use template in Virtual Machine Manager as a base image, and user can create a lot of VMs based on the same template, so it will be uniform. Alright, so now let's go through another step in number 3, which is an automation, where we actually want to have end user to be able to deploy virtual machines without IT intervention. We call this self-service. Alright, in order to do self-service, we need to have go through a pre-process called onboarding process, where a business unit will get assigned to a specific sandbox within an IT infrastructure. And once it's being pre-approved, then user can deploy machines, virtual machines directly. So I'm going to log into a new virtual machine here, simulating business unit, where I can start doing the onboarding process. Okay, so first of all, I need to register new business unit, and it'll take a while to connect to the virtual machine manager machine. Basically, what this is doing is allowing the end user, in this case my IT admin end user, to be able to basically onboard this particular business unit into the self-service. Okay, once it is done, then it will be able to create the VMs automatically. Okay, all right. So here it goes. So assuming that I want to register for the sales unit, so I put sales here, put the business unit code, sales IT admin, put in the high priority. We said servers needed for store operations. Okay, and make sure that I got the right user, and then click submit in order to let the IT approve it, right? So once this is being submitted, I can go back to my IT department, which is here, and then see the request that just come in. Right, you can see that it is being submitted by sales IT admin. What I can do is to approve this process, and then let's go back to the sales IT admin here. So you can see that, okay, the request that he just made has been approved. Now he's ready to create infrastructure requests, right, to actually assign how much space that it needs in terms of the storage, compute, and network, and so on and so forth. All right, so in here, let's say that we want to have presence and SQL Server pass. So I put here pass, priority is high. In here, that we can also specify when we're going to decommission this. Let's say a month from now. Okay, say we need to sell books at SQL Pass. Okay, and I can assign the request capacity. I don't have that much capacity needed in this case. All right. And then I'm going to create service information for that. Right. It says this is for sales transaction service. It's going to be at production. Same billing code that I entered before. For this one, I want to use 1 gig and then storage, and want to put it in my Lucerne network. And I want to add a new service role. Right, I call it a POS system, and going to be part of Lucerne Net. Okay, make sure that I have this, and I have to list my operator in here. So I put Lucerne sales operator, which is not a administrator, as well as the user, be able to connect to the VM directly. Finally, I want to select which template that I want to use. I want to use both SQL Server 2008 and the SQL Server 2012 template as well. And we're ready to submit this request. Okay. Now, once you submit the request, let's go back to the virtual machine here, self-service portal, and see the request that is being submitted for infrastructure. Right? I need to go and review before I approve. So I'll go here and make sure that whatever the user entered in here is correct, and go through each one of them, each of the entry here from services, service role, and things like that, and then go here and check, make sure that it is good. I want to make sure that I assign this to the right host in my infrastructure, right? And then also be able to store it in a particular virtual machine location. And looks like everything else looks good. And then I look at the service role. It's going to be in LucerNet. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to use the master action. There's also ways to create different actions when customer will deploy VMs. In this case, I'm just going to use the base one, and make sure that I select the right virtual machines template, because I might have different templates to do this, as well as for the SQL Server 2012 template. And then I'm ready to approve. Okay. Alright, so it's being approved. And now let's go back to the IT admin and see the request. And it says that, okay, my request has been approved. At this point, the business unit can actually go and create virtual machines themselves without IT interventions, because it's been approved. As you can see here, there's a create virtual machines. I'm going to click on that, and it allows them to create the virtual machines inside that particular sandbox that we have just created. Right? So let me show you this, how to create different virtual machines. I can name the virtual machines individually or single name number of virtual machines. I just want to do it individually. I want to create just one. Maybe call it POS SQL 2012 for pass in this case. And select the new template that I want to do, LucerNet. And I also can specify very nice things like when this virtual machine is going to be expired. So let's say if the event is next week, I can just let it expire within a week, things like that, and put in my email when it is expired, so that I can be notified. Alright, then I can just click create. It takes about 20 minutes to create a virtual machines in this demonstration environment, but it depends on the environment. Could be very fast, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, depending on your environment. But so I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is to show you the virtual machines that I already pre-created before, which is this guy, POS 2012. So it's been deployed, it's been created, and it's nice. Now what I can show you is that in reality, that once it's being deployed, it has the same applications that the Lucent Publishing is going to use, which is the bookstore, right? The bookstore application, right? So quickly, I've shown you the way of self-service, where we allow business units to request a particular area in the IT department infrastructure, in this private cloud infrastructure. And then there's a pre-processing called onboarding that allows a business unit to get pre-approved on particular area in the infrastructure. And once it's being approved by IT, the business unit can actually deploy virtual machines themselves without IT interventions, based on the template that IT has already created. Alright, so that kind of conclude our part, the pillar 3, which is self-service. The last one that I'm going to show you is the pillar number 4, which is control and customize, where we want to allow IT to be able to monitor the usage of the VMs that's being created, destroyed over time, and be able to make sense out of it and see the usage in order to be able to look at where it's being used, so that they can optimize a particular template if the template is being used the most. You can imagine that IT department create tons of templates, and they can put reporting services in one. They can put like the OLTP SQL Server in one. They can put other application in different one. And depending on the usage, they can tweak, and then they can change the configuration, such as increase the memory capacity, increase the storage, and so on and so forth based on usage. Right. So self-service portal provide a very good reporting that allows IT department to look at the usage of different business units that make use of the VMs. Right. It can also look at the resources as well, on where it's being used, how much memory, and so on and so forth. Right? It's time to also let you know that the IT department can go and set a particular cost for all the resources. For example, memory costs, storage costs can be done here. Here I just put $1 a day. There's also a way to set up a cost for each of the templates. Here I put $2, $3 for this template per day for being used. Once the usage information is collected and the cost information is here, self-service portal can provide a good chargeback calculation and report based on the usage. Right? So in here I can actually go filter based on different department, for example. And based on different years, if I have multiple years, right? So very, very good solution. Not only allows business unit to deploy VMs directly without IT intervention, but also allows IT department to monitor and provide chargeback information to the business unit, right? So that concludes our demo for this solution. What we're going to do next is to show you what are the next steps that you can do after this session today. So the solution is SQL Server for private cloud, but we are giving you 3 choices for you to go and deploy or implement this solution on your organization. The first one obviously is self-build. We are providing ways for you to do it, like build guides and things like that. This is for you to use your existing hardware. Of course, this is the most flexible, meaning that you can reuse your existing hardware. You can mix and match. However, the solution, you probably need to work on it for a longer time, and you cannot guarantee the performance because you have to tune it yourself based on your expertise. The second way to do it is to use reference architecture from HP. It's tested by Microsoft, but it's HP hardware specific guidance. So this one kind of boxes you into HP hardware, but it gives you some flexibility. You can choose different hardware from HP, and you can do it faster because HP provides this step-by-step documentation on how to deploy this on your own, and you can somehow guarantee performance because if you follow the steps with HP hardware, it is there, the performance. The best way that we think that you can do is to use the appliance. Microsoft and HP, we have this database private cloud appliance that's being released in last SQL Server past event. What it does is we have pre-built the solution, SQL Server for private cloud solution, into the appliance. So all the software, all the hardware has been installed, pre-installed, pre-tuned in such a way that this appliance is very, very good for database workload. It also has white glove support where you have single point of support from HP. And because of that, then this is the faster way to get to this solution. You purchase the box, we ship it to you. It comes with either half or full rack. And it's guaranteed on performance because we pre-tune this and you can daisy chain all this into multiple rack configurations. Alright, so look at the appliance from Microsoft and HP on SQL Server for private cloud. The appliance is called Database Private Cloud Appliance or Database Consolidation Appliance. Alright, so let's look at it more closely, the appliance. Alright, so I mentioned earlier, has full rack configuration, has 8 blades total, 4 storage block. Each block has 27 terabyte formatted storage. so you can times 4 with the total. And it also comes with half rack. And one thing to notice in here is that it is very much capable of handling 60,000 IOPS for very high-end database workload, and it's sustained IOPS. It's not peak IOPS, so you can guarantee that the performance of this appliance is going to be at the maximum. Right? It is built full HA and disaster recovery ready. On the host itself, you can back up and restore the host. On the guest virtual machines itself, if you're running SQL Server, you can make sure that you can use failover clustering and things like that to make sure that the host, the guest is good. On the database itself, since it's running SQL Server, you can make use of all SQL Server technologies such as always on and things like that to be able to get to that. And the appliance is being manufactured to do performance at scale. Right? So it can actually run it half rack, full rack, and multi-rack. And each of the configurations can support, like half rack can support up to 100 VMs. Full rack can do up to 200 VMs per rack. And you can daisy chain those, and you can actually purchase even a pod of it. Right? The energy saving, cooling saving, and physical saving is just tremendous in this case, right, for the appliance. All right, we come to the conclusion. Thank you for watching the part 2 of this SQL Server 2012 for private cloud solution. For more information, you can go to the public website that we have here for SQL Server for private cloud. Thank you and have a great day.